in a world. What is going on? All right, that was crazy. So last night we were streaming. We got like 15 minutes in right before we started to get to cover the shooting, or what people are calling a shooting. Just the whole internet crashed and didn't come on for like an hour. It was pretty wild. And then right when I go live tonight, right before I'm about to go live, my entire audio mixer just crashed. And I kept plugging it in and it wouldn't come on. It's wild, bro. It's just crazy. It's like every time I go live, something messes up. But it has to just be a coincidence, right? Not even being sarcastic. That would be wild. Okay, cool. We got a pretty crazy stream tonight. So if you want to support the stream, you go to the description, whatsitgets.com. You can do everything there. You can become a member. You can donate. I think, crypto, all that. Super chat. I'll read all the super chats off that come through the website at the end of the stream or maybe periodically. And help a brother get partnership on Kick. If you're on a PC, open up an extra browser if you insist on staying on JTube, and at least I can get a view counted there. And consider subbing on Kick, which helps me a lot. The more subs I get on there, the more likely they are to help me fast track becoming a partner so I can get verified at Kick. How much RAM do you realistically? I don't really know. I don't know. I have like a 3070, man, and that's just what we're rocking with. So, okay, cool. So this is about the Trump assassination attempt, quote unquote, even though it wasn't one, because like the official story is the guy just like didn't even shoot anything, didn't get close to trying to assassinate him, right? But way more to that rabbit hole than you may realize. So it's going to be a very interesting stream. I encourage people sharing it to people so we can get the word out. And this week we'll be helping explain to people how they can help clip through Kick if they would like to do that. Is Kick downloadable on iPhone? Yes, it has an app. Okay. This is crazy, man. This is crazy. I did not expect this rabbit hole to go through here. So if you don't know, there was a White House Correspondents' Dinner a couple days ago, and then there was a guy that ran in there to try to assassinate Trump, allegedly, and his manifesto later came out. Guy worked at JPL back in 2014. Basically all of his internet activity shows like super like radical Democrat, of course, right? So in case you haven't seen it, let's just look at kind of some of the videos so you'll know what happens. So right when this like mentalist guy is basically saying, how could I possibly know that the baby that you're expecting's name is going to be Vivian? You'll see him say, no way I could know, right? You hear the shots? They don't even react. So then she realizes, a lot of people immediately say everything is fake. I don't really fall in that camp. I try not to do that. But you're probably going to be surprised by some of the stuff we're about to find out. Okay, let me fix this real fast. Okay. So we'll show you the security camera. So Trump quickly posts this on his Truth Social afterwards. This is like the original one. This is what Trump posted on Truth Social. Super grainy. 2026, no big deal. Do you think Beyond the Curve with Mark Sargent and Jeranism was actively harmful to FE? What do you think about search results for Flat Earth experiment on Google, etc., being redirected to Jeranism, proving it's a globe? I think it was definitely a hit piece, I think like the topic being presented to people and having them think about it, I used to say it was a net positive. Now pretty much everyone's heard about it, but it's just a hit piece. If anyone looks into that, they find out they lied about the whole thing. All right. I'll read the super chats off a little later if they're not related to the topic. Okay. So super grainy. Obviously, you see this guy just run through. He just sprints through, and then the Secret Service draws their guns. Okay, here is a Fox News broadcast that happened shortly afterwards, and listen to what she says, and then they just watch what happens.
I want to just quickly tell you, I was sitting next to Caroline Levitt, the press secretary's husband. He was one of our guests. He was seated right next to me. And, right as the dinner was starting, the national anthem happened. And then he kind of leaned over and said, I watched you on TV. You do a great job. You need to be very safe. And he was just very serious when he said that to me. And he kind of looked around the room and he said, there are some...
Sounds like we lost Aisha's phone.
Could be a coincidence, but pretty interesting timing where, like, why is she being told before anything happens, you need to be safe, right? This also could be a coincidence, but look, I just want to say something real fast, right? It isn't helpful to anyone to just like abruptly say, it's all scripted, even if you were right. It just, if anything, hurts that position, right? Because it just makes it look like an extremely biased, ignorant position. Realistically, these things could be a coincidence. The context there would be, trust me, follow me with this stream. It's going to get crazy. She's just good at singing the national anthem and, crazy people may want to do something. Who knows? Very weird that she's being told, make sure you're careful, be safe. Okay. And so the official story is that this guy ran through the corridor and then just tried to run past all of the Secret Service, and they shot like 5 times. A bunch of other numbers were floating around. You can clearly hear there's only like 5 shots. Official story that they shot at him, completely missed him. A Secret Serviceman got hit in the leg. So I guess it was like friendly fire, whatever. That, like per usual, they're not really giving a lot of details. And people will run around saying, well, that's because it's an active investigation. And no, it's just they're not going to ever give you details about it, which is super suspect. Just like with the Butler assassination attempt, right? They never came out and gave us more information about that. Those of us that were questioning it, people got really mad and they were like, oh, you're saying this person didn't die or whatever. It's like, brother, it's 2026. You're going to have to step back or you're going to get ate up. Okay. They're shifting us to an entire new system. You don't do that without like highly sophisticated psychological operations. Not claiming that they're all fake. I'm saying the people that just swear they know everything is fake from the beginning are just as bad as the people that pretend they know that it's real from the beginning. Okay. So check out this interview here right before the dinner.
To rumble, is he not?
He is ready to rumble. I will tell you, this speech tonight will be classic Donald J. Trump. It'll be funny. It'll be entertaining. There will be some shots fired tonight in the room. So everyone should tune in. It's going to be really great. I'm looking forward to hearing it.
I love it all. And you wrote most of it, you said.
I can't take credit. In true Donald Trump fashion, the man puts his pen to the paper himself. So it's a lot of his own work.
To rumble, is he not?
There is a 0% chance that that is true. He puts the pen to the paper himself. All right. She said there's going to be shots fired in the room. Obviously, talking about like jabs at people, but pretty wild.
Is ready to rumble. I will tell you, this speech tonight will be classic Donald J. Trump. It'll be funny. It'll be entertaining. There will be some shots fired tonight in the room.
There will be some shots fired tonight in the room. Now, they weren't fired in the room. They're fired right outside the room. So here's his post here. He posted it, right? Okay. So then help me out with some typos here. Okay. Then this starts floating around. It really says CapCut AI right there. And so it's like it's supposed to be this cleaned up version. Then what people do is they're like, oh, look, it's clearly AI. They're faking it. Because you see this guy, he's like holding, I'll maximize here. He's holding a screen. If you look in the top left, right, he's holding like a sign. And then the sign like goes into his face and then just disappears. He runs past everybody. Oh yeah, this is AI. It literally says AI right there. And then these people start pushing it out as though it proves that it's fake. What this did for me is made me think, oh, it really might have been faked, as in staged, right? And let's just cover this for a second because there's so much coping going on. The fact that this was circulated as a truth or trap made me think it might have actually been staged. Does that make sense? Because what it does is it discredits the idea that it was staged, which is what you would do if you really staged it. You would just circulate fake stories about how it was staged that are easily debunked, obviously, right? Very simple. But there are many ways that something like this can be staged, okay? For example, one of them is just that they could know it was going to happen and then they let it happen. 2, MK Ultra, you guide the guy to do it, you know what he's going to do, and you allow it to happen. 3 is it's all set up, and there are varying degrees of that. Like literally, you can have actors, crisis actors, all that, right? And we've seen stuff like this done undeniably. Okay, but CapCut AI is a program used to enhance footage. Yeah, that's right. But when you look at the original footage, there's not a sign in this guy's hand. So when it tried to enhance the footage, right, it added a sign that ended up going through the guy's face. So, bruh, I mean, you know how immensely incompetent the government would be if they were going to use AI? Why would they put out super grainy footage? I guess one could say because of stuff like this. But it's like, I mean, couldn't you just actually have a guy run through there and shoot blanks? And the point is, dude, that this is noticeably AI. It has the little marker up at the top and the sign goes through his face. Everyone's like, oh, look, they're putting out fake security footage. To me, it's a truth or trap. So we'll watch the full enhanced without me stopping it.
Shall I post it as soon as he passes on that?
18. Go for
Again, you definitely want to stay with me in this stream. It's going to get crazy. This rabbit hole is way deeper than what you may think that where this is going if you haven't heard yet. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is show you some things about the shooting. And this is going to get crazy. I mean, I think that's enough, right? I mean, I guess we could do this because the real gravy is a little bit further down the road, right? But I'll read the manifesto. We won't read the whole thing, dude. Okay, but here's part of it. P.S. Okay, now that all the sappy stuff is done, what the hell is the Secret Service doing? Sorry, gonna rant a bit here and drop the formal tone. And what we're gonna actually do is put this security. There should be a video of a girl. Like if X would be awesome if its search function just didn't suck. Here we go.
Into the White House Correspondents' Dinner. Honestly, as somebody who went, there was no
How did somebody get a gun into the White House Correspondents' Dinner? Honestly, as somebody who went, there was no security. You just showed your ticket and you were able to completely get in. There was just no pat downs, no metal detectors, nothing going on. So really horrible setup. And I just don't even understand how that was a thing when the United States president was going to speak, who has already had assassination attempts on his life. So really crazy.
Okay, pretty girl, peep the necklace. Very convenient. Video immediately comes out. Okay, manifesto. P.S. Okay, now that all the sappy stuff is done, what the hell is the Secret Service doing? Sorry, gonna rant a bit here and drop the formal tone. Like I expected, security cameras at every bend, bugged hotel rooms, armed agents every 10 feet, metal detectors out the wazoo. What I got, who knows, maybe they're pranking me. It's nothing. No damn security. Not in transport, not in the hotel, not in the event. Like the one thing that I immediately noticed walking into the hotel is this sense of arrogance. I walked in with multiple weapons and not a single person there considers the possibility that I could be a threat. The security at the event is all outside, focused on protesters and current arrivals, because apparently no one thought about what happens if someone checks in the day before. Like the level of incompetence is insane. And I very sincerely hope it's corrected by the time this country gets actually competent leadership again. Like if I was an Iranian agent instead of an American citizen, I could have brought a damn Madus in here and no one would have noticed anything. All right. What was Jaren's cost to flip? You're the best debater in the manosphere. I'll chat in a little bit, but I appreciate the compliment. Ready to Rumble? Isn't that an introduction to a WWE style wrestling match? It is, yeah. Okay. So conveniently, this guy actually has a manifesto, right? Now, watch this. I mean, I guess if you want to see more videos as to whether or not it's fake and you get an idea, this is how they responded. I mean, we saw the delay after the shots. It would be the most incompetent thing ever, right? I mean, this is like 30 seconds after we hear the shots. Now, we could go all into these details, right? Where they got him face down and what do they got on top of him and he's not bleeding and da-da-da-da-da, right? We go on all these different details and maybe we will in a little bit, but.
And about 8% are shot at. So, and 8%. And about 8% are shot at. So, nobody told me this was
Ether Matter, shout out to you. Thanks for subbing on Kick.
Such a dangerous profession. If Marco would have told me, maybe I wouldn't have run. Maybe I would have said, I'll take a pass. No, it's a dangerous profession, but I don't view it that way. Look, I'm here to do a job. As part of the job, it is a dangerous, I can't imagine that there's any profession that's more dangerous, but I love the country and I'm very proud. I'm very proud of the job we've done. You see what's happened. We have a great country. We've got, I think, the most successful, the hottest country anywhere in the world. This happened over a period of just a year.
What, Sacred Guard, what are you talking about? You know, you're watching edited clips. What are you talking about? Am I supposed to watch hour-long clips? What's edited? Edited, you're implying that it's like changed. None of these are changed, right? And this isn't even the video I'm looking for here, but we're going to find it. Okay, look at this.
You have to have all of the attributes of what we're planning at the White House. It's actually a larger room and it's much more secure. It's drone proof, it's bulletproof glass. We need the ballroom. That's why Secret Service, that's why the military.
They cut it to say, I don't think that they were cutting it to say 8%, bro. The percent isn't even why. Who cares? Okay, I see what you're saying, but whatever. I mean, I don't think that was done on purpose. You know,
Are demanding it. They've wanted the ballroom for 150 years for lots of different reasons, but today's a little bit different because today we need levels of security that probably nobody's ever seen before. We have to have
So what the guy immediately starts talking about,
all of the attributes of what we're planning at the White House. It's actually a larger room and it's much more secure. It's drone proof. It's bullet.
now, do you guys remember when right after the Charlie Kirk assassination,
How are you holding up over the last 3.5 days? I think very good. And by the way, right there, you see all the trucks. They've just started construction of the new ballroom for the White House, which is something they've been trying to get, as you know, for about 150 years. And it's going to be
bro, what is this guy doing? Why is the audio so low? That's super annoying. How are you holding up?
very good. And by the way, right there, you see all the trucks. They've just started construction of the new ballroom for the.
Dude, he's asked right after Charlie Kirk's assassinated, how are you holding up after what happened? He said, I think pretty good. And by the way, they just started construction on the new ballroom. Okay. Then there's supposedly an assassination attempt. And this
that took place tonight. And I will say, you know, it's not a particularly secure building. And I didn't want to say this, but this is why we have to have all of the attributes of what we're planning at the White House.
He didn't want to say it. By the way, let me get out ahead of this. Okay. Just think about how stupid this is. Okay. People are like, they're like, what's the motive of faking it? Right. And then he's like, well, look, he's immediately talking about this ballroom. Like, are you kidding me? They were talking about the security and needing the ballroom before this assassination attempt, because as if they faked it so they could then bring it up as an excuse. Yeah, that makes the point stronger that they were using this idea. Like people, like I saw an interview on InfoWars and all these people shutting down the people that are entertaining that it might have been staged or set up because they wanted to then use that as justification to build the ballroom. Because if you don't know, the story is that like the Democrats won't agree to help fund building this new ballroom that Trump wants. And they're like, no, that was, they've been talking about that since before the shooting. That's the point, right? If they set the narrative in place that they need like a more secure, advanced new rooms added to the White House and renovations, and then Trump is renovating the White House and like the planes, upgrading the planes and everything as though he's going to be there forever. But, my point is like, wouldn't that make the point stronger if they're like, yo, it's not secure. Yo, we need to work on things and blah, blah, blah. And then this happens. It's like, see, I told you. How is that somehow a refutation that it's staged?
Actually, a larger room and it's much more secure. It's drone proof. It's bulletproof glass. We need the ballroom. That's why Secret Service, that's why the military are demanding it. All of the conditions that took place tonight. And I will say, it's not a particularly secure building. And I didn't want to say this, but this is why we have to have all of the attributes of what we're planning at the White House. It's actually a larger room and it's much more secure. It's got.
Okay, bro. All right, now. And we don't have to watch the whole thing, right? So if you haven't seen him, you can look into like a bunch of. Here, we'll watch this.
You demonstrate courageous.
Okay. A guy who's a Democrat. This is the story. He signs in a day early. He puts a foldable shotgun in the back, hides some other guns. During the correspondence dinner, he then tries to rush past Secret Service to go assassinate Donald Trump. He gets shot at, but nothing hits him, but then he still gets detained. One Secret Serviceman gets hit in the leg, but not by the suspect. And then there's conveniently a manifesto ready to go for everyone to read. Then immediately afterwards, right, there's this person saying that there's going to be shots fired, all this coincidental stuff. Immediately afterwards, this is what Trump is saying when asked about it.
Leadership, and thank God you're alive, all of us are alive today. What is the message that you want to give to the world that this should change? What corrective measures can we take from here on?
Well, all you can do, look, I don't care how many people you have, how good they are. They can be the greatest people. You have the greatest security in history. If you have a whack job who's got a brain, but it's a little bit distorted or a lot distorted, they can make trouble. I would say, Pete, right? You know, they can make trouble. Some of these people are of genius level IQ.
Someone's saying the sound's going in and out. Can anyone give me an update or feedback on that? Is like the mic sound good? Are you talking about the sound through the audio? Can you guys give me feedback on the sound? Because I was having an issue with my audio mixer.
And they're nuts, so it can be trouble. So you do absolutely the best. You get the best. We have the best people. Well, look, it was proven tonight. He started running from 50 yards, and he was fast. He was like a blur on tape. He was moving. It was very impressive the way they got him, because a lot of people would be looking and saying, you know, it's like a weird feeling, and they would let him get through, but they didn't let him get through. They drew those guns so fast. They looked like Matt Dillon. They looked like somebody that knew what they were doing. What do we do? But it comes with the territory. And if you want to do a great job, I really believe that. And you take a look at what's happened to some of our greatest presidents, and it doesn't happen to people that don't do anything. And it's not going to deter me from winning the war in Iran. I don't know if that had anything to do with it. I really don't think so, based on what we know. But we're going to continue to do a great job. That's all I can do.
People across the globe.
Thanks for feedback. Sound is good. And then, yeah, dude, the super chat's not related to the topic. I'll read them off at the end. So you can send all your questions. I will answer them, but not until the end of the stream. Okay. Here's where it's going to get crazy, guys. Okay. We'll do this real fast. April 23rd. So this is before.
Bring up a subject of interest. I do a lot of this as president and try and save money. And one was the Lincoln
Official White House account.
Memorial Reflecting Pool, which everybody knows. That's where Martin Luther King made his great speech and where others have likewise made great speeches and great events held there. It's very famous. It was built in 1922 and it's more than 2,000 feet long. It's 167 feet wide. It's very big. That's like taller than any skyscraper, 2,000 feet. And here's a picture of it. You probably recognize it. Right now, it's got no water in it because it was in terrible shape. It was filthy dirty, and it leaked like a sieve for many years.
Just to answer this, so I asked if Duffy's contracts for TFE required the flat earther to pay for themselves, because I spoke to someone who was invited and that was in the contract. No, you would have to pay for it if you canceled without a legitimate, unavoidable reason after you already spent the money and it was non-refundable. And I wrote Jaron and I's contract myself, which had like every imaginable coverage, and it was completely one-sided in terms of like protecting us. So, no.
So I actually went with Secret Service and a group of people, and I took a look at it. One of the people with me was Doug Burgum, our great Secretary of the Interior. This comes under his purview, and he said, yes, we've had a lot of problems with it. It's not working. It hasn't worked for many years, and it's always filthy dirty. And
This is totally true. Like when I went to DC, I went through DC on the tour like a few times, you know, because I was doing like activism outside the White House and Lincoln Memorial and stuff. We came back through there. Every time I've ever been to DC, the pool is disgusting. I was like, this is so embarrassing for America. Like, what in the world? This is like something you would see in like a third world country, bro. Like, it looks disgusting. It looks like a pool that's been abandoned for a few years outside of an abandoned house. It's insane. Like, actually disgusting. Like, you would not even think about like getting in there at all. And it's the freaking white, like the Washington DC like memorial pool. Like, insane. So I gotta agree with that. In general, is so gross, dude.
Say, well, we're going to solve the problem. And they had bids. That's all they can do is a swimming pool. And last for 40 or 50 years.
Okay, I thought this was a different video anyway, but kind of relevant. He's renovating everything. All right. So let's check some of this out here. Here we go. Here's a picture of the guy. So I'll read this post. He says, all right, I'll be that guy. In the room before the panic, we clearly hear 5 shots. The video Trump posted shows him run through. Agents drew guns. Cole Thomas Allen had a makeshift shotgun, not an automatic rifle. The shots were the agents. Agents shoot center mass. Something stopped the shooter. He is shown on the ground, chest and back exposed. Center mass. Where did the agent shoot him? What stopped him? Where's the blood? Why is the whatever vein not indicating that he is in any pain or distress? The video of Trump, Melania, and the magician shows the woman reacting as if there's a shooter before Trump or whatever. Was this a staged event? Not all great points, but I want to show you guys this picture. It is weird. I mean, he was stopped. You see the video that they posted, right? And then he wasn't shot at all. He just ran by them, and it's just immense incompetence is what it would be. Okay. Now let me show you guys something that's going to trip you out. Here we go. Now we're going to get into where it gets crazy. We've given plenty of time for people to pile in. This is a little deeper than I think people realize. And I don't know, this just kind of blows my mind when I started to put it all together. Okay, some of the stuff in here, misinformation. So they took this picture, reverse image search it. It goes to a website called The Time Machine. And then there's this guy, Henry Martinez, back in like 2018. He makes a post. His X account only ever made one post, and it's the name of the shooter. That's all I put. So people are like, oh my God, he's talking about a time machine, blah, blah, blah. Why someone would jump to a time machine before just like, something being orchestrated is beyond me. I could never tell you. But this part's interesting here, right? You have the stories in the late 1800s. A science fiction author or a fiction author writes a story. He writes a group of novels about Baron Trump and his mysterious adventure, right? So Marvelous Underground Journey. There's a few of them. Baron Trump's, of course, the name of Donald Trump's son. Goodness, says late 1800s. And he has a few different girlfriends. He runs underground because he makes a lot of people mad. He time travels. It's like this crazy story. And someone over top of him is called Trump. I'll find in a second the specifics. Or Trump's also in there. He also writes a book called The Last President, where there's a final president. People go and protest the president outside of Fifth Avenue in New York, right where Trump Tower is, right? So what are the odds of that? But anyway. Okay, check this out. Well, let me see what this one is first.
And try and save money.
I talked about the arc here. Doesn't matter. Here we go.
Really, really weird.
This speech tonight will be classic Donald J. Trump. It'll be funny. It'll be entertaining. There will be some shots fired tonight in the room.
Check this out.
Quickly tell you, I was sitting next to Caroline Levitt, the press secretary's husband. He was seated right next to me, and then he kind of leaned over and said, you know, I watched you on TV, you do a great job. You need to be very safe. And he was very serious when he said that to me. And he kind of looked around the room and he said, you know, there are some.
They cut her phone off. They stopped her from talking live on air. And this is the person who allegedly did this. Now, what's absolutely wild, that this random account, Henry Martinez, joined X on December 2023 and tweeted out one name, Cole, on December 21st, 2023. There's a motive.
And I will say, you know, it's not a particularly secure building. I didn't want to say this, but this is why we have to have all of the attributes of what we're planning at the White House.
No. I'm about to explain to you guys. I'm going to make it make
Actually
more sense.
A larger room, and it's much more secure. It's drone proof, it's bulletproof glass. We need the ballroom. That's why Secret Service, that's why the military are demanding it.
The White House East Wing Ballroom project, where Donald Trump fired the McCreary architects and replaced them with Shalom Baroness Associates. This ball.
Proof glass, we need the ballroom. That's why Secret Service, that's why the military are demanding it.
The White House East Wing Ballroom project, where Donald Trump fired the McCreary architects and replaced them with Shalom Baroness Associates. This ballroom, the one that has the blueprint that looks exactly like Solomon's temple. And what does Baroness Associates? This ballroom, the one that has the blueprint that looks exactly like Solomon's temple. And what does Shalom Baroness Associates have experience with? Doing multiple synagogue renovations, renovating temples. And you remember America Reads the Bible 2026, a historic call to
This is crazy. This is crazy.
return to God's word that literally finished today, where Donald Trump read the Bible. And he specifically read 2 Chronicles chapter 7, verses 11 through 22. So what does 2 Chronicles chapter 7 deal with? The dedication of the temple, where the Lord appears to Solomon after Solomon finished building the temple, and the Lord gave him a vision, saying, when I shut up the heavens so that there is no rain, or command the locust to devour the land, or send plagues among my people, if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear from heaven and I will forgive their sins. This is what Donald Trump read. And so is this a play to get the third temple built?
Bruh, that's a coincidence. That's a coincidence. The guy who can't even remember, like when he's asked what his favorite Bible verse is, can't even read one, doesn't even know one.
Thus Solomon finished the house of the Lord.
Bro, oh man, this just happened. Okay, this literally just happened. And when he comes to read the Bible, this is what he reads out of all the Bible verses.
Lord and the king's house, and all that came into Solomon's heart to make in the house of the Lord, and in his own house he prosperously effected. And the Lord appeared to Solomon by night and said to him, I have heard your prayer and have chosen this place to myself for a house of sacrifice. If I shut up heaven that there be no rain, or if I command the locusts to devour the land, or if I send pestilence among my people, if my people, which are called by my name, shall humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then will I hear from heaven and will forgive their sin and will heal their land. Now my eyes shall be open and my ears attent to the prayer that is made in this place. For now I have chosen and sanctified this house, that my name may be there forever, and my eyes and my heart shall be there
Am I the only one that's super uncomfortable hearing him read the Bible?
perpetually. And as for you, if you will walk before me as David your father walked, and do according to all that I have commanded you, and shall observe my statutes and my judgments, then will I establish the throne of my kingdom according to as I have covenanted with
And it's just creepy because he's reading it obviously from a first person.
David your father, saying, there shall not fail you as a man to be ruler in Israel. But if you turn away and forsake my statutes and my commandments, which I have set before you, and shall go and serve other gods and worship them, then will I pluck them up from the roots out of my land which I have given them, and this house which I have sanctified for my name will I cast out of my sight, and will make it to be a proverb and a byword among nations. And
this is so cringe, bro.
This house which is high shall be an astonishment to every one that passes by it, so that he shall say, why has the Lord done thus to this land and to this house? And it shall be answered, because they forsook the Lord God of their fathers, which brought them forth out of the land of Egypt, and laid hold on other gods, and worshiped them and served them. Therefore has he brought all this evil upon them.
Okay, so pretty funny, for one, that it's all about returning to the Torah. That's what it's all about, you know, where, of course, modern Christianity would say that's no longer a thing. But see Kingdom of Context here. Freemasons love Solomon. So if you guys don't know about that, obviously there's a whole story with Solomon, right? And Solomon, of course, when he asked for one thing, he asked for wisdom. And so he was like considered one of the most wise king. He builds like a crazy temple, like an immaculate temple. And like the occult are obsessed with Solomon's temple and Solomon in general. And so if you look up the Seal of Solomon, what do you know? What do you know? And then when you look up so Revelations 13:16 through 18, he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, and that no man might buy or sell, save he had that mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. Here is wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666. Well, if you look at so let me see if I can zoom in here. Okay, according to 1 Kings 10:14, 2 Chronicles 9:13, King Solomon received 666 talents of gold annually, excluding taxes and tribute. Okay, so pretty interesting. There's the wisdom of Solomon, which is the story that Solomon was given a ring. He had a ring that allowed him to have control over the demons, and he was like obsessed with the demons, and he became so obsessed with it that it ended up kind of going crazy and basically opened up a door that he couldn't really ultimately close and control. And so there's this occultic obsession with this like wizardry, we'll call it, right? This sorcery and interacting with and controlling demons. You know, a lot of people kind of overlook. They just view Solomon through a strictly like positive light, and they don't really know Solomon was out here wilding, bro, right? And they're obsessed with him. So super powerful, super rich, super wise, had tons of control, built an immaculate temple. There's the Seal of Solomon, which we just looked at, and it's kind of revered by esoteric occultic circles, right? And so Solomon is a major portion of all of this situation. But check this out. And this is so weird, bro. So Trump announces plans to build the ballroom, and we'll look at it in a second. The blueprints look eerily similar to the Temple of Solomon. And if anyone was going to try to be like Solomon-esque, right? I mean, Donald Trump, right? Now, check this out. This is so wild, bro. So he talks about how he's going to build an ark. Arc de Trump. What? And they ask him, let's see this. Trump. It's like a movie. It's just comical. When Trump was asked what his 250-foot arc in DC will celebrate, Trump pointed to himself and answered, me.
Traveling 15, 16 hours to have a meeting with people that nobody ever.
Okay, this AI image was posted. Okay, you see that you noticing something about this arc he wants to build? Why is this in a different language? Look at this. Killing me, bro. We'll get a few better images here. Although that is another interesting thing here. I don't know where it went, but how he had the replica of the Ark of the Covenant, supposedly made with real gold. Okay. So you see this image here. Okay, we'll get some better images. Let's say. So Trump, Arc de Trump, Day Trump, commission unveils plans for 250-foot arc. Bro, look at that. These are AI images that they officially released. The White House officially releases plans to build this ark in DC. You see what's on it. When he was asked about what it would commemorate, he said himself. Okay, the top of that ark is Apollo, bro. Okay, and so like, I'll show you this. Obviously, if you've never known this. Okay. I want to clarify here. I am not claiming that Trump is the Antichrist or anything. That's my disclaimer and preface. We're told who the Antichrist is, right? The king that was and is not, but will be again. He appeared to suffer a mortal head wound. I covered previously on one of the last few streams, right, that you have the book of Enoch that's removed. It tells you obviously the Watchers come down, take women as wives, and then they make children. You have the Nephilim. A lot of the women died during birth, according to like the book of Giants and other texts. And they were revered as gods. And you have like the clash of the Titans. Then they go ask Enoch to go ask for forgiveness from the Creator. And he says no. And they say, okay, well, at least please forgive our children, for they didn't do anything. And he said, no, not only am I not going to forgive them, but I'm going to make you watch them kill each other. And now you have like, say, the Greek quote unquote mythos where you have like the clash of the Titans, these giants fighting each other, right? And so there's a crazy, very extensively documented and rich history of angels or little g gods coming from the sky, being worshipped as gods, intermingling with man, and then having their children being worshipped as gods. Even if you go back to like the Atlantean lineage that some of the occultic groups believe they track back to, they became debased of mind as they intermingle with man, according to Plato. So this is the general premise of a lot of these belief systems. And I won't do the whole, like, I know it may sound crazy. Look, if you haven't figured out that a history is not what you've been told yet, you're going to have to just wake up, right? No, there weren't Empire State tall lizards 300 million years ago that couldn't anatomically reproduce, but somehow did, with just these fictional belief systems of hundreds of millions of years. There were giants. And I would say extensive history of dragons, all this. So look into that. I'm not going to cover like that there were giants in this screen. But the point is, okay, the story goes you have Nimrod, right? Again, the king that wasn't is not. Okay, so the one world order, like we previously discussed, was reigned over by Nimrod. And he's the man of many names. So you have Nimrod, Gilgamesh, Osiris, Apollo, all the same person, right? And he's always described as like a mighty hunter, a just king. He reigned over everywhere. Then people discuss, like, was there a singular language or was there telepathic communication? Who knows? But of course, eventually they get broken up, right? The creator intervened and said if he did not intervene, they would have accomplished what they wanted to accomplish. They were trying to build a tower to heaven and take it over. And then there's like an Arabic rendition of that story that says he shot an arrow to heaven. It came down with blood on it. He convinced people that he had like killed the creator or something insane. He intervenes and he separates the languages. They can no longer communicate with each other. They can't finish the project, the construction project, basically, right? And it describes like how big the tower is, and it's like mind blowing. Now, within like modern interpretations of the earth, I don't really know how you square that circle there, right? I mean, they were just going to build a tower to go get to where they were all going to suffocate in a near perfect vacuum, less infinite, never ending, expanding, near perfect vacuum. But anyway, the point here that's important is like there was already a one world order, and these elite are obsessed with the one who reigned over it. That is their deity. Okay. Nimrod, Gilgamesh, Osiris. So what do you know? They found America with how many colonies? 13 colonies. What's the capital of the United States? Washington, D.C. What's the Washington Monument? It's a giant phallic symbol that's like embedded with sex. It's like 6,666 inches tall, 666 feet tall, whatever it is. It's something crazy, right? Like all the metrics in 666, project coincidence. Okay, well, the story of Osiris is he's dismembered into 13 pieces, except they can't find his penis, and then they basically replace it with a golden phallic, right? And then Isis like has sex with Osiris. It's all very weird, but this is like their belief system. So when you look into when did we go invade in the Middle East, a few weeks after they made the discovery using ground penetrating radar that they had found the tomb of Gilgamesh, right? And they announced this, and it's over the course of weeks. They're like, oh, it's for sure the tomb of Gilgamesh. And then boom, we go over there right at that location, which of course Baghdad is ancient Babylon, and we take it over. And then we just like ransack their ancient Babylonian museum, and then we return the relics, but we only end up returning like 1/3 of them or something like that. So we keep the stuff that they wanted to get, all three levels. And this is like extensively documented at this point. Lots of witnesses have come out. Like we raided their museum. It's even acknowledged in part by the government. So you look at the WikiLeaks emails with Hillary Clinton, right? And I'll just show you instead of just telling you, because I'm trying to put the bigger picture together for you guys, because this is crazy, right? And let's see. So WikiLeaks leaks some of the emails, including Hillary Clinton's emails.
Forget who Nimrod was in the Bible, right? Nimrod was the original one world government. Forget who Nimrod was in the Bible, right? Nimrod was the original one world government guy seeking to unite humanity under the Tower of Babel, one system created in defiance of the creator. One world government. This is why the mystery cults, they revere Nimrod. Freemasons revere Nimrod. In Masonic tradition, Nimrod is considered to be the first grand master, even before Solomon. I was telling you about that. This is all very real. It should shock you. We probably like, was I about? Yes, absolutely. And so people then dug up, and this got a bit confused, by the way. So I should clarify that there was this still never quite explained FOIA request that went through to the State Department requesting documents pertaining to the resurrection chamber of Gilgamesh, the location of his body and the location of the buried Nephilim.
Insane, bro. So, subject, requesting documents pertaining to the resurrection chamber of Gilgamesh, the location of his body, and the location of the buried Nephilim. In the WikiLeaks Hillary Clinton emails.
Who are we talking about? Who are we speaking about when we...
I mean, bro, that's just weird, right? Here they are. Okay. So someone said, like, sounds like a myth. Like, okay, yeah, you're right. It does. It sounds wild. What you're saying, that angels came down and had sex with women, and then they made giants, and they were worshipped as gods, and they reigned over the world, and they ate humans whenever they got pissed off, and then they even intermingle with animals, and that's when you get the depictions of like gods and giants that have like eagle heads and lion heads, and you're claiming they were actually real. Yes. Okay. But whether you want to suspend belief, fine, right? I encourage you. What you're going to find out over time is that we were told that all of our ancestors were primitive and were basically retarded, and they just made up a bunch of fairy tales, pretended that they were real. They did not write these things as though they were fairy tales. They claimed that they were real. And until even recently in Greece, Greek mythos was taught as actual history. We were told, like, oh no, they were just stupid. Simultaneously, we find out that everything that they've said about the past and their architecture and their advancements and how everything worked was a complete lie. They lie about the age of the earth, easily debunked with stuff like the great unconformity that shows like millions and millions of years of missing sedimentary layers in their own paradigm. You see trees that are like multiple layers deep, which then you can see the age of the tree is like a fraction of how old they claim it is, and the list goes on and on and on. We find mummies that have red hair and blue eyes. We find like depictions of Buddha with blue eyes. They're just like, the history isn't as we have been told, right? And then you can look at Abraham Lincoln has a quote referencing giants, like we're looking out at the same mountains that the eyes of giants looked at are at Niagara Falls, right? Whenever he gives a speech there, you can go look at old newspaper clips. There are online databases of all of like the newspapers from the early 1900s of the United States, and giants are regularly referenced, the remains of giants. This idea of dinosaurs wasn't even a thing until like 1840s and 50s, put forward by the Royal Society, who magically theorized it, and then all of a sudden people are supposedly finding them. And anytime someone finds a giant bone, they say, oh, it's super dangerous, radioactive. They come take it, and then they swoop in and they claim that they're dinosaur bones, and that we need to keep them safe, but here we'll make like little replicas that we'll put in museums that aren't the real bones. Okay, all that aside, this is not going to be a whole stream proving that there were giants, or right. I obviously cannot literally or scientifically prove that there were giants. This is a historical claim. So the way that you try to determine the accuracy of history is we use the historicity standard of evaluation that we use for everything, and that's circumstantial evidence, that is like consistency of corresponding records that are not geographically separated, stuff like this. Okay. This is all that aside. Let's just say, oh, that sounds fake. This has got to be fake. Okay, cool. That's cool. That's cool. Right. But the elite like esoteric occultic groups that have an immense amount of power, the seemingly 13 sacred bloodlines, the very powerful families at the very top that kind of reign from the shadows, their literature claims that this stuff is real. More so, their literature claims that they believe that their lineage tracks back to them. They're obsessed with Atlantis, for example. They believe that star people came down, or demigods, gods came, and that they track their lineage back, like they're part God in a way. This will explain to you the mentality of how they view people as like dispensable, right? They view them strictly transactionally. They think that we're inept and incompetent and that they need to take care of us similar to cattle. Well, if they truly have a belief system that they are literally different and superior to you and that they come from gods, then maybe that will give you a little bit of context as to why they think that. Okay. There is this hyper obsession with Nimrod, though, specifically Nimrod, Gilgamesh. You have the Epic of Gilgamesh, right? Which spills right over in the flood, right? The narrative of the flood. You have Osiris. They're obsessed with this quote unquote Egyptian mythology. So why are all these different cultures talking about the same king? Because he reigned over everything, right? He reigned over everything. It was like the first world order. So I think it's the Ascension of Isaiah. And if Kingdom of Context is here, maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong. It's one of the texts that were removed, one of the apocryphal texts. And I believe in the Ascension of Isaiah, it talks about how Nimrod was beheaded, right? So after he was killed, he was beheaded to like ensure that he was dead. Well, you know, we're told that the Antichrist appears to suffer a mortal head wound, right? So it's like, oh, well, we're going to make sure he's dead. We're going to cut his head off, right? And if he were to come back and reign, it would be like the resurrection of Nimrod, who appeared to suffer a mortal head wound, the king that was and currently is not, but will be again, right? So Antichrist means lie. No, it doesn't. It means imitation of Christ. And so this would be the imitation of Christ, of course, right? The ultimate imitation of Christ, because it would be a resurrection, right? So like a mockery of Christ, or claiming that he's the real Christ, basically, right? And so this will be like the leader that takes over. Like we're told specifically, like people are like, oh, is Obama Antichrist? Is Trump the Antichrist? Have a stream like, is Trump the Antichrist? For Trump to be the Antichrist, he would have to like change state. The bottomless pit would have to open up and then somehow like morph into using his vessel, and he would change, something crazy like that, right? Like Trump, just like the mere man that he is right now, not the Antichrist. We're told specifically. Okay, I brought all that up to explain this, okay? We're told the name of the Antichrist as well, right? And we're told that the Hebrew name is Abaddon. I hope I'm saying that right, Abaddon. And then the Greek tongue is Apollyon. Okay, Apollyon, which is just basically the extension of Apollo being the root word, which is basically the god of destruction. So Apollo, which is, again, Apollo, Gilgamesh, Nimrod, Osiris, same being, same person, different names because of different cultures, because they were split up. Now, this has to kind of trip you out, right? Like, oh, the Bible's fake. This is all stupid. This is not real. The Bible claims that everyone spoke the same language. They were building a tower. The creator intervened, made them speak different languages. There was a ruler that reigned over all of it, and they're basically like, who could ever fight with this king? He's the mighty hunter. He would, he always depicted as like walking around holding lions like they were pets, right? So what a coincidence when we look back through the historical, anthropological, archaeological records, we consistently find documentation and records that reflect exactly what the scriptures say, that all these different civilizations with different languages that didn't live together, that lived in different regions, all describe the same king ruling over them with the same characteristics, but they have different names because they are speaking in different languages. So they have different names for the same guy, right? The elite are obsessed with this. They're obsessed with this guy, the return of this guy. And this goes like, it just keeps going, because if you look into the word God, the way that we say God, G-O-D, is the same way that you pronounce God, G-A-D, the Babylonian deity for fortune and luck. So money, which is of course printed on the back of your money, in God we trust. So when these elite say God, they're talking about the Babylonian deity. It's because there's a lot of power in the words that you say, right? It doesn't matter that you write G-A-D or G-O-D. When you say it out loud, you create that vibrational displacement in the medium of air, which is what sound is, right? That actual physical impact in the world. And then, of course, I think it's tied to intention, right? You're saying the same word, God, God, okay? Setting all that aside, I'm just throwing you different circumstantial pieces of evidence to let you know the world's a little crazier than you think. There are very powerful occultic people, and it's like all roads lead to Rome. Okay. And that road leads to Babylon. All roads lead to Babylon. Okay. And the Babylonian king is Nimrod, and they think he's going to come back, and they want Gilgamesh to come back. Nimrod, Apollo, right? And then you get into like, oh, the sun god, the god of destruction, exactly how he would represent himself. That's a whole rabbit hole in and of itself. But what is so crazy is what they're now doing, where they're pushing this this ballroom with the same blueprint of the temple, and then they're pushing Trump saying he's going to build an ark dedicated to himself, and on the top of this ark is literally Apollo. Right. And so I'll show you here. In case you didn't know. This is kind of annoying. The way I'm having to like go paste the link, but it's all good. Okay, you see Apollo? Oh, it's just the Statue of Liberty. They say it's a female. Looks like a dude. Same as Apollo. See this? Pretty crazy, right? Painting of Lucifer. Look, all these different names, different deities. Helios, right? Just again, a different name, sun god. So that's what the Statue of Liberty is. Obviously, I know a lot of people are now going to start spamming stuff about the little season and how the chains on the feet of Statue of Liberty is because it's Satan's little season. I don't personally agree at the moment. I'll say that if maybe that'll appease people. And I will do some content going more in depth and investigating it since people keep asking about the little season. I have looked into it and it is not correct from my understanding. So Lucifer is the Statue of Liberty. Lucifer, there's a whole rabbit hole there with that title or name, right? But the Statue of Liberty is Helios or Apollo, the sun god. Or you could say Lucifer, yes, because it's just different renditions of this same lead god or character, right? Which is going to be the one that comes and reigns again as the Antichrist. So that's what, like, a lot of the confusion comes from, like, all these different names. Like, oh, that people just assume that's different gods because different societies and civilizations had their own gods, right? No. They're all describing the same dude, you know, and he's described as like 2/3 man, 1/3 God, I believe. And then he puts on like the coat of many colors, and it's a whole thing. The whole story of Nimrod is wild, but they're trying to resurrect him. And so the Ascension of Isaiah said they cut his head off. He appears to suffer a mortal head wound, right? Well, again, you have the story of Osiris. Not only was his head cut off, he was dismembered into 13 pieces. And then when Isis went around and found all the pieces that they dismembered and scattered, they found everything except for the phallus. That's the story, right? Except for the penis, effectively. Okay. I know I'm hitting you guys with a lot, but I want you guys just to this is going to start to blow your mind. Okay, so Trump wants to build, and let me see if I can find... There's like an official post. Because this is not Trump's first time. Obviously, he has the cover of it being Statue of Liberty, right? What they're saying here. The reason I think that this is all relevant is they're really wanting to renovate and build everything. And so they're trying to get this all in place. I think that's literally what the whole thing was. And of course, assassination attempts have a tendency to unify people around the president, obviously.
Today, we have Cole Allen, another individual charged with crossing state lines coming from California with a firearm with the intent to commit a felony here in the district. Let this be a message to anyone who thinks that Washington, D.C. is the place to act out political violence. And if you are willing to do so with a firearm and cross state lines, we will find you. We will track your steps from the inception of your plan, and we will prosecute you to the fullest extent of the law. Washington, D.C. is not the place to travel to commit acts of violence. The Constitution and the laws of the United States permit us to register our views through our voices and our votes. What they don't permit is making your views known through violence, especially violence directed at the President of the United States. This is anti-democratic at its core.
Yeah, sorry, I just saw a crazy screenshot.
You wouldn't think much of a random X account created in December of 2023
Not advocating, we're just watching.
and also making a single post in December of 2023. What was that single post? A cryptic name, Cole Allen. Henry Martinez worked for Lockheed Martin developing the Orion spacecraft CPE. He won the Dr. George Pearls Award for Best Paper for his paper called Testing Orion's Fairing Separation System at the 42nd Aerospace Mechanisms Symposium held May 14th to the 16th in downtown Baltimore. This was not in 2026. While Martinez and Cole Allen did not work directly together, they were both at NASA at the same time, as Cole Allen was interning at NASA at 2014, while Martinez was working at the Goddard Space Flight Center. At this time, not much else is known about Henry Martinez, but take a look at what his banner reveals. Curiously enough, this banner image comes from a website called Time Machine. Almost a year later, the image would be used as a cover photo for a song uploaded by Chocolate. The song's title? 4 Chargers. Coincidentally, or not, the number of people in the photo it aligns with is 4. Henry Martinez has not surfaced again to make another post, and as far as we can tell, Cole Allen has not mentioned Henry Martinez in any of his social media posts or while teaching. You have to ask yourself, what happens next? Well, this news report provides a bit of context. It's a little freaky though, so brace yourself.
They say art imitates life, but in this case, is art a prophecy? Author Ingersoll Lockwood wrote a series of books over 100 years ago about a super rich kid named Baron Trump. One of the books is titled Baron Trump's Marvelous Underground Journey. The fantasy book tells the tale of a boy named Baron Trump, who of course makes his home in Castle Trump. The narrator of the story is a guy by the name of Don. The book supposedly tells the tale of Don, the master of masters, taking young Baron through a time-traveling portal to Russia. The last pamphlet written by Lockwood is entitled The Last President, which takes place in New York City and describes the chaos America faces after the election of an unlikely candidate.
That's right, this adventure series surrounds Baron Trump, a rich kid that lives in Castle Trump and travels through time to Russia. I'm sure there's still more coincidences around this event and what's happening right now as we go through this and discover more information related to Cole Allen and Henry Martinez.
So yeah, Tower Trump, bro. Castle Trump, I mean, bro. Really, bro. Really.
As well as the Trumps, but for now, this is pretty freaky. Are we dealing with time travel?
No.
Or is this just an extreme amount of coincidences that seem...
What a false dichotomy, right? Or it's a script that they wrote, clearly the most plausible
to be aligning to a very strange out.
Someone said, don't you think that they could doctor screenshots? Like, yeah, I guess they could, but you can go look it up on X. So you mean like, don't you think they could doctor it? Like X is doctoring it? I suppose.
You'll have to...
Like, which one's more of a conspiracy? That X is retroactively doctoring posts from accounts from like multiple years ago, or that like the government does what they always do and they just script psyops to convey people to push them towards a certain, or convey certain narratives to push them towards a certain sentiment?
Let me know in the comments.
Going to introduce legislation
So this is what everyone wants to talk about after the shooting.
that would authorize $400 million to be spent to secure to build the presidential ballroom.
Why are you so against time travel? It's just an extraordinary claim that would require extraordinary evidence. And we talked about this in the, like, for one, to me, it's just got all the signs of like the lie they're trying to convince you of. Because obviously that makes you extremely powerless if there are some entities or beings that are traversing time. I think that there are entities that are not limited to material and they have been here for a long time. Like they're not, confined to mortality, right? So they could, of course, claim they could know things from the past, and they could even make educated guesses about the future if they're pushing humanity in certain directions. But that doesn't mean they're actually traversing time. for one time is largely theoretical. It's a quantification methodology. And then in mainstream pseudoscience, they try to present it as some type of physical, actual entity or something like time. And then they claim it stretches out and dilates and all this stuff. And not all that pseudoscience. Also, like if you were to traverse time, right, like the most minor of decisions would have like what they call the butterfly effect. It would be almost impossible to just to have creatures just like literally traversing time, right? And then more so, like it's directly antithetical to the way that the scriptures describe everything. But no, that isn't the only reason that I think it why, which is why I explained the other ones.
Underneath, there will be a lot of military stuff. There will be a Secret Service annex, and we've paid for it by offsetting it with custom fees. But the estimate is $332 million. We're going to do $400 million because I think it's probably going to take more. Private donations can be used, but I think they should be used for buying China and stuff like that. Underneath this ballroom will be infrastructure that is national security centric. The ballroom itself will avoid the dilemma of having to leave the White House grounds with future presidents and this president's to go downtown in a place that's less secure.
What is super crazy, and I will just lay this out here because I don't currently think this, but it is interesting, right? There is this take that the United States is actually where Israel was, and that the Middle East is kind of like a misdirection. And then there's this idea that Florida was where the original Garden of Eden was because it has it's like one of the only places that has the type of wood that's described in the scriptures. And, there are arguments against that. It checks all the boxes. It's like one of the only places that has a single head with 3 rivers coming out of the same source, or 4 rivers. Used to be 4, right? And then now people point out like, oh, well, the Mercator rendition or depiction of the North Pole, quote unquote, had that same thing. So people think that that might be where the garden is. But some people claim that Florida is the garden, right? And that's a whole rabbit hole. And it's definitely not just like completely baseless. They have like a pretty compelling argument about Florida being the garden. Of course, there's paradisiacal and all that. And then what happens with the flood, the ark gets taken away, right? Because if there was a giant flood, then the boat's not just going to sit there and then land right in the same place, right? And then it landed over what maybe seems like Turkey, where it's been found, like the remains of ark does appear to have been found there. So there is that idea. And then you have like, there's a lot to this idea of the United States being the actual geographical location of Israel and Egypt and stuff like that. I investigated that pretty thoroughly. I found it pretty compelling at times. Stuff didn't ultimately add up. And my current position is, in fact, that the Middle East is where, like, say, Yeshua walks, stuff like that. At the same time, we are drastically lied to about the history of the United States, where we're told this like very modern, like, relatively recent and modern history version of the United States, when there are artifacts going back like a couple thousand years, like 2,200 years, that are Hebrew artifacts that were found here, and almost no one's even heard of that. Or you have like Hebrew commandments found that the Native Americans were even adhering to. And it keeps going, right? Because it's like, you have like the crescent, right? The Fertile Crescent. Well, like the Gulf makes much more sense than what they call the Fertile Crescent, which isn't fertile at all. Florida is one of the most fertile places in the world. And it goes on and on. Okay. You can take that and then it can stem over here into, oh, well, it was the old world and they picked it also to rebuild for the new world. And so if they were going to build a third temple, or a temple where he's going to stand in it and claim to be God, then it would be in the United States. And everyone's over there looking at Israel, and they're like, being misled and distracted, so it can swoop in right under their nose. We do know that there's a great deception. There's a delusion in that if it were possible, even the very elect would be deceived. And so the deception is going to be very meticulously crafted. It isn't just going to be very obvious, like where anyone and everyone just like, oh, yep, that's it, right? Which is kind of the way people approach a lot of eschatology and revelation, and that just can't be the case. Like, how could everyone be deceived? And for sure, that includes a lot of people that in name claim to be Christian. But the Grand Canyon, yeah, and that's another great point. Like, or the Grand Canyon, which we talked about that in the podcast with This and That, which is on the channel. If you haven't checked it out, pretty interesting conversation. We covered a bunch of topics. They found what people call Egyptian artifacts, but sure, for intents and purposes, they look the same as what is attributed to Egypt. You also have the Mormons, right, who came here and were obsessed with this idea and claimed this idea. And then you get into like Utah, you get like a fresh body of water, a salt body of water side by side. There's only two places in Earth, the Middle East and over on the West Coast of the United States, that exists. So a lot of the description of the scriptures are also here in the United States, which is interesting. So this idea that he would be building, calling something the Ballroom, right? But it's going to be like immaculate. He's obsessed with it. Directly after the assassination of Charlie Kirk, he's asked how he's holding up after the assassination. His immediate response is, pretty good, I think. Look at the Ballroom that we're building. And then they're making a big spectacle out of like opposing it. And then you have, the assassination attempt. So now we need the Ballroom, even though the White House Correspondents' Dinner wouldn't have been held there, even if it already was a thing. And they're saying, we need more security, blah, blah, blah. And now they have this incident. And immediately, what are they doing? They're saying like Ballroom, Ballroom, Ballroom. And I'll show you in a second. We'll let this finish, and I'll show you in a second. There's like some very sketchy things about the connection between the narrative that this supports. So we need the Ballroom after this alleged attempt.
President Trump said to me yesterday, we need the Ballroom, not just for me, but for future presidents. He literally could have left his bedroom, walked out the back of the White House, and been at the Ballroom. That's what needs to happen when you have 1,000 or 2,000 people gathered in today's environment. And the sooner we get the Ballroom built, the more hardened it is, the better for the country. So I hope and pray that most people in the Senate after Saturday night will support this bill.
Okay, so watch this. Everyone immediately posts. Can I zoom in here? That's so lame. Well, I'll just read them. Okay. All of these conservative influencers, right afterwards, immediately. Andrew Colbert, this is why President Trump needs to build the White House Ballroom. This is why we need Trump's Ballroom, lives with TikTok. Jack Posey, whatever the guy's name is. Thank God President Trump is building a ballroom at the White House. Now you know why the left is suing to block Trump's privately funded White House Ballroom. We need the White House Ballroom. Everyone posted immediately. It's because they're given scripts and they're told what they need to say, and they put their own little spin on it. And they're literally paid to post it. They're propagandists, right? And this happens consistently. But I mean, who watches that story and then the first thing they think is like, we need the Ballroom? It's just so goofy. And so they all these influencers say, look at all these people. These are all huge accounts. Randy Fine saying, we better never again hear a peep from anyone complaining about a White House Ballroom. And it doesn't even make sense because it's like, it wouldn't even have been housed there. It's been at that hotel like every year or whatever. Okay. Oh, cool. Someone else put it together. Yeah, it's so weird, dude.
I will say, it's not a particularly secure building. And I didn't want to say this, but this is why we have to have all of the attributes of what we're planning at the White House. It's actually a larger room, and it's much more secure. It's drone proof. It's bulletproof glass. We need the.
I mean, bro, Trump is like building this place like he's going to be there forever, and it is just very interesting. He's building this immaculate area, right? Renovating everything, making everything way nicer. Okay. And something else that I'll show you really quick. So Trump Tower, he has a penthouse in his own tower. I've covered this way back in the day when I was like, is Trump the Antichrist? And again, I have made the disclaimer then. I'm not claiming he is. I'm just saying that this guy's very weird. And it's way deeper than people think in terms of like his place in the spiritual war, as far as I'm concerned. But anyway, so Trump Tower, he has a penthouse in Trump Tower. Guess what floor it's on? Can anyone guess what floor Trump chose to have his penthouse in his own Trump Tower? The 66th floor. You turned Trump orange? No, I just don't use the bright white light. It hurts my eyes. The 66th floor of Trump Tower is where he decides to stay. Okay. Look at some of the stuff in there. Now, this is the story of Cupid. Okay. It's loading. Okay. So you have like an inversion, like as above, so below, right? With the mirrors. You have the Masonic towers here. If you know anything about the two towers and all the Masonic depictions, right? You have Apollo led in his chariot by Aurora back here. So a painting of Apollo. You have this big statue of, what they call Eros and Psyche or whatever, which is like where you get Cupid. It's just a human woman being taken by an angel. That's what it is. Up here, you have a painting of Apollo on his chariot. So he's had like this obsession with Apollo for a long time. And then everything is gold, right? Everything is gold. There's Apollo right up here. So bro, it's just weird. It's just so weird. So then again, when you look at Solomon, he gets tons of gold. He gets 666 talents of gold. And that's what's interesting, where it says like, he who hath wisdom or he who hath understanding, let him calculate the number, for it's the number of a man. And the one time the number 666 is attributed to any man in the scriptures, it's Solomon. He was brought 666 talents of gold every year. So he had tons of gold, tons of wealth. He was very wise. Obviously, he had tons and tons and tons of women. And, if you look into the wisdom of Solomon, it's pretty crazy. And he had a ring that gave him reign over the demons. And he was like tormented and couldn't get out of it. And it's like a whole crazy story. Crazy, crazy story. So that's why the occult are obsessed with him. The occult are not obsessed with him from the perspective of like being a wise king that was blessed because of obedience to the creator. No. Quite the opposite, right? Because of his disobedience and power and control over or like on earth. Okay. Let's go back.
I will say, it's not a part. It's drone proof. It's bulletproof glass. We need the ballroom. That's why Secret Service. That's why the military are demanding it. They've wanted the ballroom for 150 years for lots of different reasons. But today's a little bit different because today we need levels of security that probably nobody's ever seen before.
How are you holding up over the last 3 years? I think very good. And by the way, right there, you see all the trucks. They just started construction of the new ballroom for the White House.
It's just the weirdest. To me, that was so weird at the time, too. Shout out to the top gifters at the moment. You have Vitali, 1984. Shout out to you for the 5 gifted. I think that was like a couple days ago. Flat Earth Gnosis, Frank Nitty, shout out to you. So shout out to everyone that's subbing on Kick and all the gifted. And AC Baker is still the top gifter of all time. Okay. Shout out to you guys. I appreciate that. It means more than you know. Let's keep watching this.
Which is something they've been trying to get, as you know, for about 150 years. And it's going to be a beauty. It'll be an absolutely magnificent structure. And I just see all the trucks. We just started. So It'll get done very nicely, and it'll be one of the best anywhere in the world, actually.
There we go.
I'm here to tell you right.
It actually shows you more close up there. All the posts. Ballroom, 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 ballroom. So weird. I mean, it's not really that weird. I mean, when you know what's going on, it's kind of
Let me tell
Trump taps pro-refugee Jewish immigrant as new White House ballroom architect. And so we just looked into that, right? The Shalom Institute or whatever. And they have a history of what they specialize in building is synagogues or temples. So they changes the architect of the ballroom to a company to architect that specializes in Jewish temples. Bruh, how is this not getting weird to everybody at this point? Born in Libya, is known for his work in D.C., including the Jewish Center in downtown Washington. Amid anti-Semitic sentiment there, coming to the U.S. as a child with the help of the Hebrew Immigrant Aid Society, now known as HIAS, he rose to prominence as an architect in Washington, D.C., where he has designed and renovated both private and government buildings, including the post-9/11 Pentagon that trend towards the modern. Look at this. This is the Times of Israel. And obviously, those that don't know, this is the Pentagon. It's exactly like a star fort, right? If you don't know about star forts, look into them. Pretty crazy. Built in very strategic locations all around the world. Dude, really? Oracle CEO confirms to open the second data center in Israel. Of course, Oracle, he's working with them, hundreds of millions invested into. Look at this. Trump tech agenda begins with $500 billion private AI plan and cuts to regulation. Dude, the stuff Trump's doing is like, you guys have got to see the bigger picture, right?
This agreement is between. Tonight, Trump's secret White House ballroom contract revealed.
What I will say is, dude, like the magic, if you want to call it that, with a K, like the spells, they're becoming like much more evident, right? You have like crazy leftists that are wrong about everything. You get them to articulate critique of Trump and make what seems like fear mongering points, and then you have Trump actually prove them right. So you have like logical people that are like, this is stupid. And then you have Democrats just being wrong about everything. And then you have all the people that tried to support Trump now look ridiculous because Trump's doing all of it. Like, oh, he's going to be a dictator and a leader. He's going to violate the Constitution. He's not going to care. He's going to go to war if he wants. He's going to attack anybody that attacks him. He's doing all those things. He's increased his net worth from like 1 billion to 6 billion since he's been in office. Like all of his sons have increased their net worth like 800%. He dropped a freaking meme coin as the president, bro. You know, he went to war and he's like, we're not going to call it war for like legal purposes. We'll just call it a conflict. He is like overtly acting as basically a king. And it's ironic because they had the No Kings protest, which everyone's like, okay, you guys are out of control. And Trump derangement syndrome and stuff. So now if you have anything to say about Trump, they just hit you with the TDS accusation.
Agreement is between the White House, the National Park Service, and the Trust for the National Mall. Okay, you're looking at it. You weren't able to see it not long ago. But what is in this agreement allows donors to the $400 million Trump project to remain anonymous. And it also exempts the White House from key conflict of interest safeguards and limits scrutiny by Congress. Now, the White House repeatedly defends the project, saying donations from major companies that we know of, like Amazon and Google, mean that, well, taxpayers aren't footing the bill for the $400 million project. Trump posts, I'm honored to be the first president to finally get this much needed project underway with zero cost to the American taxpayer. The White House ballroom is being privately funded by many generous patriots, great American companies, and yours truly. Well, this is Trump's ballroom. And anybody who wants to curry favor with the president to get a deal approved or who knows, something to go away that they don't want to deal with as a company. They know all of this full well. It is a project he's been obsessed with.
We're building a world-class ballroom. We're going to be adding a magnificent ballroom. I believe it's going to be the most beautiful ballroom. We're going to have the finest ballroom, I believe, anywhere in the world. You're going to have the greatest ballroom anywhere in the world, and you're going to love it.
Now, the stunning details of this contract are only seeing the light of day thanks to a lawsuit demanding transparency. And John Gollinger's out front. He's an attorney, democracy advocate with Public Citizen, the group that filed the lawsuit to get this contract, and you won. So here we are, looking at it. It says, just, you go through, it's got all the details here. On page 3, joint responsibilities of the parties, number 8, preserve the anonymity and privacy of any donor who wishes to remain anonymous. So we know the ones that Trump made a big stink about, but there's others who could have put a lot of money in, and who knows what they were hoping to get in exchange for that we wouldn't know because of this. I mean, how unprecedented is it to have something like this where anonymity would be given to donors to a presidential project?
Yeah, I mean, first I would say reading this document shows why they wanted to hide it. It's a sham and it's a scam. The National Park Service does have a procedure and a template that looks almost like this for other such agreements to do other such things with DC buildings, but they don't have a single word about it, anonymity. This document says anonymous or anonymity on almost every page, 10 times in a 14-page document.
14 pages, 10 times we use the word anonymous.
That's right. So
Stunning.
Clearly hiding the money is the central part of the scheme. And the question is why? So you mentioned we know of 24 companies and some other donors that the president calls great American patriots for putting money into this project. So first, of course, many of them have contracts with the government, conflicts.
I mean, bruh, obviously CIA and CIA, it's all stupid. Doesn't matter. That doesn't even matter. Like, that's weird. Like, why they want it to be anonymous. It's definitely not Israeli funding, right? And dude, everyone's like, yo, third temple over here. And it's just kind of weird. Like, are they going to build a temple here? And who knows, maybe they build more than one. Maybe that's not the case, right? But if Trump basically takes over and doesn't leave office and we're in war and it suspends elections or whatever, like the last president that somehow predicted the name of his son and that he wouldn't leave office somehow becomes true. And the only president ever to even joke about a third term. And then he renovates everything, making it really nice and immaculate, designs it similar to how he designs his penthouse in his Trump Tower, where he coincidentally chooses to put his penthouse in the 66th floor. Well, then it's going to have lots of gold, right? It's going to have a lot of references to Apollo and to angels taking women, just Apollo everywhere. All kind of Masonic symbolism of like the 2 Gnostic towers, as above, so below. Like his entire penthouse is gold and flooded with symbology, right? And so he's obviously notoriously like involved in architecture and real estate. So if he's like going to renovate everything to do with the White House and Washington, D.C. and where he stays and make it this like modern, new, advanced, beautiful, immaculate like place, it's pretty weird. So, and we're going to look into the blueprints a bit more, and that's where it gets pretty crazy.
Because they want enforcement actions dropped. And almost none of them have actually said how much they gave, despite being asked by multiple members of Congress. So if they're great American patriots, why don't they tell the American people how much they gave to this project, for starters, and really why they did it, whether they did it in conversation with a lobbyist or with the president's fundraiser.
We don't know any of that information.
We don't know any of that information other than what good reporting and some watchdogging has uncovered. Most of that information remains secret. This document is a roadmap to find out a heck of a lot more.
So, okay, the White House, obviously, they told the Washington Post, oh, it's standard practice to not post an agreement like this because national security is involved, right? We're talking about, a building involving the White House. And they said, they keep emphasizing their post was President Trump is working 24/7 to make America great again. They end with at no taxpayer expense. What do you say to that part when he says, oh, this is, people should be celebrating this, that companies are paying for it. And by the way, he said he himself is also paying for it.
Sure. 2 things. Number one, taxpayers are paying for all of it because the companies that gave the money to this project, though just the ones we know about. We did a report that found that they have 279 billion in government contracts in the last 5 years. So those companies, pretty.
Okay, you get it. Super sketchy.
Agreement. House and they said they keep emphasizing their post was President Trump is working 24/7 to make America great.
I can only do so much of that.
Sweeping redesign of Washington from a massive
Here we go.
President Donald Trump is pursuing a sweeping redesign of Washington from a massive White House ballroom to new monuments and cultural renovations. The centerpiece is a 90,000 square foot ballroom planned to seat 1,000 guests. Critics say demolishing the East Wing to build it has sparked backlash. The Kennedy Center, renamed under a Trump-appointed board, is set for a 2-year, $200 million renovation starting this summer. Another proposal? A 250-foot Independence Arch near the Lincoln Memorial, larger than Paris's Arc de Triomphe and potentially near airport flight paths. From the Oval Office decor to the Rose Garden and Lincoln bedroom,
Bruh.
Trump is leading under a Trump-appointed board is set for a 2-year, $200 million renovation starting this summer.
2 years? I mean, well, they'll only enjoy it for 1 year, right?
Another proposal? A 250-foot Independence Arch near the Lincoln Memorial, larger than Paris's Arc de Triomphe and potentially near airport flight paths. From the Oval Office decor to the Rose Garden and Lincoln bedroom, Trump is leaving a visible mark on the White House, a redesign supporters call bold and critics say reshapes historic space.
But it's going to be a magnificent.
Okay, here we go.
And, you know, as you know, we're building a.
And we got to admit, this is pretty weird, right? I mean, look, I think I made a post about it. So let me do this. What's it? Okay, let's just look at this real quick. So, do the Jews believe that Donald Trump is their Messiah? Stay with me. I'm going to start breaking a bunch of the stuff I think down on X. I'm going to start posting on there. I got pissed and was like, fine, forget it. I'm not even going to post. But then I feel like I'm kind of letting them win because they clearly like halted my account. You know, I popped up to like 24,000 super fast. I jumped on InfoWars and then just bang, nothing. But anyway, do the Jews believe that Donald Trump is their Messiah? Stay with me. So May 14, 2018, 70 years after Israel is recognized as a nation, Trump moves the embassy to Jerusalem. Trump is then put on a temple coin commemorating the 70th anniversary of Israel as a nation. In 2018, the head rabbi of Ukraine presents Donald Trump his discovery that his name in Jewish gematria equals 424, the same as their prophesied Messiah. There is, of course, a claim that he converted to Judaism, not actually verified in 2018. July 10th, 2023, 150 rabbis on behalf of the Israel Heritage Foundation gifted Trump a crown of Jerusalem, said to be the crown that must be placed on the head of their Messiah. Okay, how does that make any sense? Can anyone tell me how that makes any sense? People like that are super religious, so like religious zealots, they're super zealous about the coming of their Messiah. It's like all they think about. We want Messiah now. We want Moshiach now. They have a crown that's pure silver, and they believe that it can only go on the crown of the Messiah or the head of the Messiah. Pure silver, right? They gifted it to Donald Trump. They didn't put it on his head, but why would they do that? Why would they do that, bro? Like, what, is he going to have to go give it to someone else? How does that even make any sense? Makes no sense, right? Okay. So said to be the crown that must be placed on the head of their Messiah, February 26, 2024. The Israel Heritage Foundation gifted Trump a menorah for his role in the Abraham Accords. Engraved on a plate at the base of the menorah states the following. This menorah, which represents the eternal light of the world, was presented to President Donald J. Trump in honor and celebration of doing what no other man has ever done, and that is to make peace between Israel, the United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, Morocco, and Sudan, and the extraordinary Abraham Accords. Scripture says in Numbers 25:12, therefore say, behold, I have given my covenant of peace. Further in Isaiah 9:1, for a child has been born to us, who has been given to us, and the authority will rest on his shoulders. He who is wondrous advisor, mighty God, eternal Father, shall give him the name Prince of Peace. The Israel Heritage Foundation, with profound gratitude, presents this Covenant of Peace Award to the Prince of Peace, President Donald J. Trump. They are calling Donald Trump their Messiah, or at the very least, the one who ushers in their Messiah. That's a messianic prophecy, right? Why would they do that? So I brought this up because I put these pictures here. And if you look at the top one, this is called the temple coin. This was printed in Israel, right? And it has King Cyrus back here, who's the one who ordered the building of the temple. So he wasn't Jewish, but he was a king that they revere because he helped them build the temple. They print a temple coin, and then they put Trump's head on it right beside King Cyrus. Do they know something we don't know? I mean, he moved the embassy to Jerusalem. He didn't order the building of a temple. He didn't help build the third temple. Why is he printed on their temple coin beside King Cyrus, the non-Jewish king who helped them build the temple? So you guys got to be real right here, bro. This is weird, right? It's weird. Anyway.
Beautiful, very, very secure. And, as you know, we're building a big, beautiful, very, very secure ballroom in every way with massive bulletproof glass. It's almost 4 inches thick. It's pretty amazing stuff.
When do you think
all of
that'll
the
be
different
ready?
elements that you need, like drone proof,
Better run the gematria on it. I did. I fact checked it. In Hebrew gematria, it equals 424.
You need drone proofing. You need everything. But we also need a location, and the location's on the White House grounds, which is the most secure ground probably in the world, including the fencing, including everything else. The president doesn't have to leave the premises. It's really very secure. And this is
He's not the Messiah. That's why. But why would they give him the crown? I'm not saying he is, right? Because there are certain rabbis who claim there's a Jewish Messiah and a non-Jewish Messiah, right? And I've covered this a couple of times, so I don't want to just cover it over and over. But some claim that he's the non-Jewish Messiah. Some claim who's good, the creator's using to usher in the Messiah. And some claim that he is actually secretly Jewish and he's their Messiah, and that they know that he's here, but he hasn't announced himself as such yet. But they gave him the crown of the Messiah. So does he put it on him, or is he supposed to put it on somebody else, right? And then you get into his son-in-law, Jared Kushner, who is Jewish, and his daughter married him and then converted to Judaism. He's insanely powerful, but it's obviously not a voted on position, just appointed by Trump. No one even really knew who he was, like the most powerful silent position ever. He's in charge of the Abraham Accords. He bought 666 Fifth Avenue for $1.8 billion, like the most expensive real estate deal in U.S. history at the time. Maybe still, I'm not positive. Way overpaid for it. On the 6th floor, they were at one point manufacturing RFD chips or working on RFD microchips. So all very weird, right? But you have Daniel 11:45 saying that the Antichrist, because of course, if you look at it through the eschatological lens of Christianity, the Jewish Messiah, if that prophecy was to ostensibly come true, would be the Antichrist, right? Similar to like the El Mahdi in Islam, right? Someone that comes here in the end and takes over the whole world, right? That would be the Antichrist, the one who imitates Christ. And this would be exactly that, the imitation of Christ, right? A different Christ, which also Isa, some would say, from the Christian eschatological lens, Isa, the Islamic view of Jesus, would be the other Christ that the scriptures talk about. But setting all that aside, you have Daniel 11:45 saying the Antichrist will build up tents, like basically build up his palace, right? Like the Antichrist headquarters between the holy mountain and the sea, which is Jerusalem and the sea. Well, what's right between Jerusalem and the sea? Gaza. So they just leveled Gaza. And then what did they do? When Jared Kushner's asked about it, he calls it prime real estate, prime waterfront real estate. Talk about how they want to do Trump style architecture and real estate there. And they just announced in January or February, $28 billion to make the new Gaza project. They put out all these different images of it. That's weird. That's weird, bro. Right. And so Kushner's in charge of doing that. So who knows? And I'm not claiming that anyone is or isn't. Trump converted. There is a claim that Trump converted. And let's do that. Let's just say. But they don't believe that you can just convert and be the Messiah, right? There would have to be like his genealogy has been hidden. But this is what's also weird.
And I said, this is our first Jewish murder.
How does that make sense? But they don't believe you can convert to Judaism and be the Jewish Messiah. It has to come from the lineage of David, right? So it has to be an ethnic thing.
And I said, this is our first Jewish murder.
Now he's
My promise to Jewish Americans is this: with your vote, I will be your defender, your protector, and I will be the best friend Jewish Americans have ever had in the White House.
So these awards are given to me by the Jewish community for different things. And this is the Tree of Life, which is a very big award in terms of everything that I stand for. It means so much to me. And a lot of times I'll have friends of mine come in, Jewish, and they will see the Tree of Life and they'll say, wow, what a great thing. Likewise, right over here, this is the Shalom Humanitarian Award, and that was presented to me also.
He was also bailed out by the Rothschilds for like a few $100 million, I think, in a sweetheart deal after his casino just totally flopped. They just bailed him out. Wilbur Ross, like the head financier for Rothschild Incorporated. 1987. May have got some of those details slightly wrong. That's off the top of my head. Nowhere in the Bible does it say the Jewish Messiah or the Islamic Mahdi is the Antichrist. I didn't say that, right? So do I have to actually explain that? Okay. I said from a Christian eschatological lens, if there was an ostensible, I was very specific with what I said, if there was an ostensible fulfillment of the end time prophecies within Judaism and Islam, specifically the Jewish Messiah and the El Mahdi in Islam, ostensible fulfillment of the end time prophecies of Islam and Judaism. The Jews claim there will be a Messiah, a great political leader that will unify the world, and basically the Jews will be at the head of it, unify the entire world as a great political leader in the end. Okay, set that aside. Then we have Islam claiming that towards the end, the El Mahdi will come, right? He'll ride on a white horse. He'll reign for 7 years. He'll basically convert the world to Islam, right? There'll be like an Islamic state worldwide, like a caliphate. He will conquer and take out his enemies. Okay, now let's go look from the scriptural perspective, like in the Bible, if those things were to happen, right? And then, of course, in Islam, it says that Isa will be side by side. Isa, their view of Jesus. That's why I said from the biblical lens, that would be what's being referenced as another Christ, right? Will come in his name. And then you guys won't accept me, but you'll accept him, another Christ. So it says in the time there will be many antichrists, like imitation of Christ and like antichrist spirit. There will also be a son of perdition, a primary figure. We're told that you have Abaddon in Hebrew, Apollyon in the Greek tongue. And then you have Isa, which would supposedly be like the sidekick. So they would say, yeah, Jesus or Yeshua is the Messiah, and he just fulfills messianic prophecy once he comes back as Messiah. That's what Islam says. And they claim he wasn't actually crucified, right? That Allah basically deceived the world by making it appear as though he was crucified, but it wasn't actually crucified. The point is that the El Mahdi, okay, now let's just take those names out. Let's just describe it. Okay, if according to the scriptures, right, let's look at the end times according to the scriptures, say a figure arises and he's a political leader and he takes over the entire world and he reigns for 7 years. He comes riding on a white horse. He literally rules over the entire world. He goes to war with anyone that opposes him and takes them over by force, right? That would be the Antichrist. Specifically, they're told that there's 7 years and he strikes a peace deal with the Jews, and then halfway through he goes back on it. So what's so perplexing though is somehow combining these two things, right? By combining them two, because they seem so ideologically opposed, right? But I don't know. I mean, I got, maybe one of the two come true or whatever, but it says that he will then go into the temple and declare himself to be God. So then you're like, oh, well, if the Jews are trying to build a temple and they said there's going to be a red heifer, and then they've already got the red heifers ready, and they did a mock sacrifice earlier this year, or maybe late last year, and they said that they have the red heifer with no blemishes ready, which is like a prerequisite from their perspective. And then the temple, the old remains of the old temple, is what the Al-Aqsa Mosque is built on top of, right? Which is where Muslims believe that Muhammad ascended to heaven. So that would have to be taken out to build a temple there. And they're claiming that they're ready to build the temple. They've already allotted a few $1 billion towards it. They supposedly have some of it already built underground. A lot of the lead rabbis and officials in the Israeli government are claiming the Messiah is here. He's about to reveal himself. He just hasn't publicly revealed himself yet, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that's my point there. It seems pretty simple, right? Which is just obviously from a Christian perspective, if any of those things were to start to happen, that would start to fulfill the Antichrist prophecies. If anything, it wouldn't be a legitimate Messiah, as the legitimate Messiah has already came, been crucified, resurrected. When he comes back, he literally wages war on the nations. He steps in to protect Israel last minute, and he comes back with an army from the sky, and every knee will bow, right? That's what it says. So anyway.
Love you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. Please read it. Okay. Give thanks. Give thanks to Hashem, for his work is good, his kindness endures forever. Presented to President Donald J. Trump for his extraordinary and heroic efforts. I like that very much. To help the state of Israel and the Jewish people. He and his family should be blessed eternally from the Israel Heritage Foundation.
Pretty weird.
Oh, if you were the target of the gunman?
I don't know. It sounded to me, I read a manifesto. He's radicalized. He was a Christian, a believer, and then he became an anti-Christian, and he had a lot of change. He's been going through a lot based on what he wrote. His brother complained about him, and I think reported him to the police, and his sister likewise complained about him. His family was very concerned. He was...
Cool story, bro. It is weird. They're not showing me what I want to see here. Oh. Here we go. I'm not listening to that. Dude. There should be an image that shows... By the way, go sign up at whattickets.com. You can get a free membership. All streams will always be there. There'll be another chat there. You can support the stream directly there. Super chats, I'll read them all off. You can sign up to become a member. Any of the tiers, you'll get private access to all the member-only streams that will be the only place it is. So if you're on Patreon or Ko-fi, then you should go to the site and connect it. I'll make a post on both of those that have a link to the member only stream, but it's going to go to the site where you need to create an account. And you can just, if you already have a Ko-fi account, you can just connect them, which was not easy to do, but I did, I guess, pull that off. So you can easily connect them. I'm trying to find, I've seen a picture side by side of the blueprint that he rolled out on his desk, and I'm just.
Through 22.
That part is super weird. Like just to make sure everyone understands, right? There is, and we'll let him play right here for a sec.
It's a historic call to return to God. This ballroom, the one
Let's just watch it
God's
again.
word that literally finished today, because my good friend Voice, who I'll tag in the description, pointed this out because there's a motive.
And I will say, it's not a particularly secure building. I didn't want to say this, but this is why we have to have all of the attributes of what we're planning at the White House.
Also, we're going to have sub-only stream on Kick. You'll be able to chat or view the show unless you're subbed on Kick. We may do like a private stream there.
Actually,
where members get to watch it as well, or if you're subbed on Kick.
a larger room, and it's much more secure. It's drone proof, it's bulletproof glass. We need the ballroom.
Because I have to get verified. I want to get verified on Kick so I can actually, because in order for me to transition over there, I need to have my streams stay up, right? And they take them down after like 7 days if you're not verified. So I have to meet all these parameters to get verified.
That's why Secret Service, that's why the...
Actually, in a few minutes, we're going to move over to Kick. So I'll give you guys like a few minute head up there. We're about to move over to Kick and finish the stream exclusively there.
military are demanding it.
The White House East Wing Ballroom project, where Donald Trump fired the McCreary architects and replaced them with Shalom Baroness Associates.
Bro, how is that not just weird right there? What's up with this dude
Where
that's
Donald
so
Trump
obsessed?
led the
Everything's
East Wing
Jewish.
Ballroom project, where Donald Trump fired the McCreary architects and replaced them with Shalom Baroness Associates.
It's just all weird, right? Like Kurt gets assassinated. They ask him how he's doing. He's like, pretty good. Hey, look, they're building the ballroom. There's supposedly an assassination attempt. First thing he starts talking about is this is why we need the ballroom. Obsessively talks about this ballroom and, updated architecture. He shows the blueprints. They match Solomon's temple. Just all very weird. Then he says he wants to build an Arc de Trump in DC, and it's got Apollo on top of it. Obviously, they'll claim it's the Statue of Liberty. It's clearly Apollo, and like in gold. He's obsessed with gold and Apollo, and he's rebuilding. He's building a ballroom, quote unquote. He obviously couldn't say I'm building a temple, and then he secretly pushes through the project where donors are protected with anonymity, so no one can know who's funding it. It's privately funded. They make the whole point of like the Dems are just, they have TDS. They're just opposing whatever Trump does. He's trying to make, he's trying to make the United States like more classy, more elegant. Like he's just trying to upgrade things. Why would you be blocking that? Right. And it's privately funded. It's not even taxpayer money. But then when you look into it, they're specifically making sure no one can tell who actually funded the building of the temple. That's super sus, right? That's super sus. So he has like anonymous funders building this ballroom. Okay, bro.
This ballroom, the one that has the blueprint that looks exactly like Solomon's temple.
That's pretty weird. That's pretty weird. And let me take a screenshot so we can find that more.
And what does Shalom Baroness Associates have experience with? Doing multiple synagogue renovations, renovating temples. And you remember America Reads the Bible 2026, a historic call to return to God's word that literally finished today, where Donald Trump read the Bible. And he specifically read 2 Chronicles chapter 7, verses 11.
So after everything I just broke down, I'm gonna pin kick.com/Witsit. We're gonna move over there in like 5 minutes and finish the stream there. Kick.com/Witsit. So after everything we just broke down and then all those weird similarities, he then goes. I played it for this specific.
Turn to God's word.
So here we go.
America Reads the Bible 2026, a historic call to return to God's word that literally finished today.
So it was Return to God's Word event that lasted a week, April 18th to the 25th. So just ended. And right at the end of it, this happens. And whenever Trump participates by reading a verse in the Bible, as we watched earlier,
where Donald Trump read the Bible. And he specifically read 2 Chronicles chapter 7, verses 11.
which is about Solomon's temple. He's very clearly obsessed with this temple. Everyone's like, oh, how could you say that this was staged? How could it be fake? Why would they fake it? There's no motive. Well, he just immediately talking about the ballroom. All of these like paid propagandists, conservative influencers all immediately start at the same time talking about, oh, this is why we need the ballroom. Oh, good thing he's trying to get a ballroom. Oh, they're trying to block the ballroom. It's just more secure in the ballroom. Like that's the takeaway of some guy some lunatic that sneaks in past Secret Service, having a foldable shotgun, runs past everybody. The takeaway is the ballroom immediately. So like we immediately know what they want us to think about, the ballroom. So it's like, okay, well, there's a motivation there. He's saying that this place wasn't secure. The ballroom would be more secure. Oh, but they were talking about that beforehand. So that can't be it. That's so silly. That's the whole point. Yes, they were saying, hey, we need a ballroom, right? And like it'll be more secure, especially because of the assassination attempts that Trump's had. So the security will be much more extensive. And then to prove their point, if they staged a situation where, there was another assassination attempt at the White House Correspondents Center, they'd be like, look, just like we told you, something bad's going to happen if we don't actually get this ballroom that's more secure. And then they just talked about what they're building underneath it. So we're going to cover what's going to be underneath it, kind of the bigger picture when we finish it out on Kick. Go to chat settings in the badges, click on them. Not without partnership, yeah. I don't think you can have sub-only stream on Kick. It's always going to be public, but I'm pretty sure you can have a sub-only chat there. I know you can have sub-only like VODs, right? Like I know you can go once after the stream, like you can't view it unless you're a sub. So yeah, I'm not sure.
The Bible. And
I don't think I have to have a partnership either. I saw sub-only options, but okay, here we go. So here is Solomon's temple. It's pretty close. I mean, it looks like a rectangle. I'd have to know what's on the outside. Oh, it does have the outside here. It has the stairs. But it would have to have stairs, right? I mean, it's similar. It's not exactly the same. I have to see more extensive depiction of Solomon's temple. This part right here alone is wild, though. He fires them and then hires new architects, which are literally specialized in building Jewish synagogues and temples. You can't be serious. He rebuilt the Pentagon. By the way, on its face, isn't that just ridiculous? Like, if you know anything about 9/11 and Israel and the whole connection, then you just swoop in and you have like architects that specialize in building Jewish synagogues, like rebuilding the temple, bro. I mean, the Pentagon. Okay, we're going to go in the stream on Kick. Let me look at any YouTube super chats first. I'm going to tell you guys what they're building behind it here, and we'll still man the idea that like Trump is going to build the third temple in the U.S. Or we'll at least entertain that idea here. Do you think Behind the Curve? I read that one. My friend said 24-hour sun debunks FE. I don't know what to say. Just be like, what? Like a celestial observation doesn't debunk FE? because there are physical numerical measurements of the surface, which is what Fe is, and it's not a shape claim. And there are, you could just also say there are actual multiple explanations that have been put forth that would explain it. But we measured the surface. What was Jaren's cost to flip? I don't know what that means. I think Jaren just genuinely thinks that the globe is true now. Is it true that in Will Duffy's? No, I answered that. Thank you for the super chats. Thank you. No way, but yeah. How do you articulate best the concept of the Earth facing the sun in one direction at a specific time, but then 6 months later, the direction of the sun should be in the opposite direction? If the Earth orbits the sun as it rotates, its relative observational position in terms of where it would be looking out into the universe would alter. But I mean, you basically say it. I think that's what you're talking about. Have you considered a collab with you in Spiritual Logic for Truth? Never heard of him. I may know who that is, but it doesn't ring a bell at the top. Ain't it odd that these random TikTokers figured this stuff out so fast, kind of like they were handed the script beforehand? I think the internet's just crazy and jumps all over it, right? I mean, honestly, it's only just kind of becoming more coherent, and most of the stuff that comes out, it's all like easily debunked, making anyone that questions it look crazy. Heard you say Kazarian is fake. Can you elaborate? I think the Kazarian, the Kazarian theory it has some holes in it. I'm not going to say that there's that Kazarian is fake, or even the Kazarians that historically would intercept people, on their trade routes or infiltrate civilizations and all that. I'm not saying that's fake. I'm just saying the Kazarian theory, it's got some holes. Thank you guys for the super chats on YouTube. Okay, cool. We're going to go finish on Kick, kick.com/Witsit. If any mods are in here, if you can drop the links, kick.com/Witsit. We'll stream again tomorrow. Also, witsit.com, you can become a member. We actually are going to have the member-only stream today. I had to build a whole site from the ground up. So, I'm just trying to get everything situated. Then I found out, I gave her a few days to switch over. Then I found out that wasn't even working, which is so frustrating. So, because now some people that try maybe are like, oh, well, I tried and they'll forget it. So if you are already a member, Ko-fi or Patreon, go connect it on the website. If you go to members, you scroll down, you're going to connect if you're already a member, connect Ko-fi, connect Patreon, and just be patient with me because I'm doing that whole side by myself. And I'm trying to get it up and running. But if you create a profile, there's a community there. You can make posts. You can reply to other people. You can react to everything. You have DMs. You can DM directly if you're a member. There's going to be member-only streams. You can watch all live streams there. There's also a calendar that you can see all the upcoming streams. As the stream gets posted and ready, you'll be able to click on it. You'll see the thumbnail and the links to the stream. If you think you missed something or you want to know if you've missed any appearances, you can go look there. Because a lot of people have been asking for that. So I'm building it. So people can go oh, I wonder if Austin's been on a podcast. They can go, you can filter the calendar to podcasts or live streams or whatever, appearances specifically, and it'll show you. So it's pretty cool. Still working on everything. Be patient with me, but I think the site's pretty dope, honestly. So, and then we'll take any suggestions as to what should be added. And if you guys find out something's not working, just let me know. You can message me in Telegram or let me know in chat so we can get it all fixed. Okay. Thanks for kicking it. If you were kicking it on YouTube, we are now going to move over to Kick only. Kick.com/Witsit. All right. I think I should be able to end it. Yep. Wait. Let me double check and make sure this is going to work. Also, if you're on Rumble, we're moving over to Kick. Sorry, just double checking. Do I click? I just don't want it to mess up. Oh, okay. It's saying to do it in YouTube itself. All right, cool. I'm going to go in the studio. Yeah, let me at least play you guys a video. I'm trying to figure this out. I'm afraid I don't want to like remove it and delete it. So I'm trying to be careful. Let me see if we got like something. I'm just gonna read this though. This is such a trip, dude. Like, what in the world? Out of all the Bible verses, Trump reads this one. When Solomon had finished the temple of the Lord in the royal palace and had succeeded in carrying out all he had in mind to do in the temple of the Lord in his own palace, bro, all he had thought of in his mind to do in his temple, et cetera, like, what does this say that the son of perdition does, man? He literally goes up in the temple, strikes a peace deal with the Jews, betrays them, and then goes into a temple and claims that he's God. So what we'll do is I'll show you guys this real fast. If you haven't ever heard of this, this is wild. You like the repetitive coincidences to there's nothing super suspect going on with Trump here at this point is pretty crazy. You see this, Trump had an Ark of the Covenant replica. Yeah, here we go.
Because here's the thing. There's also another book called Baron Trump's Marvelous Underground Journey. Ingersoll Lockwood wrote this book too in the late 1800s, depicting this character.
When they pick those same names.
Yes. Baron Trump. That is a book. Yes. Ingersoll Lockwood wrote both these books. Right?
In the 1800s.
Yes. I believe it was like 1893, 1896, something like that.
Then there has to be time travelers.
Well, here's the thing. In the book, Baron Trump is a time traveler. No bullshit. All this is in the book, you guys. And guess what? So he time travels, right? He has a mentor named Don. This is in the book. So here's the theory that Trump actually has some type of time travel technology only because Donald Trump's uncle, John G. Trump, worked for the FBI. Now, when Nikola Tesla died, they sent him in because he's a scientist, he's a physicist, engineer, smart guy. So they were like, hey, go in to Nikola Tesla's, room and decipher all his works and whatnot. Because, Nikola Tesla discovered free energy and a multitude of things, right? So Donald Trump's uncle goes in there and says, we didn't find anything. A bunch of BS. You don't think that Nikola Tesla, who had discovered free energy and manipulated electromagnetism, which had that you can, in theory, bend time, light, and space. This man's works was confiscated by him and he didn't find anything?
Cool. All right, I found it. Yeah, pretty crazy. A bunch of crazy stuff. All right. It's probably all just a coincidence. How dare you question anything? So you can speak truth on it quickly. Come over to Kick. Don't be lame. Kick.com/Witsit. We're going to end it with some gravy. We're going to get into what they're building underneath it, kind of where this is all going, and ultimately what I think is actually going on. Okay, cool. Catch up with you on the flip side, YouTube. Peace.